We live life forwards, don't we? We can't dwell in the past, we can't get too stuck in the present. We move forwards all the time. And in Hebrews chapter 6, I'm looking at the first 12 verses, the author encourages the readers to let us move beyond the elementary teachings about Christ. Let's move forward in those things. Let's not just get stuck in a baby theology. Let's really think this through. And at the end of this passage, he says, we want each of you to show diligence to this very end, so that what you hope for may be fully realized. That's really interesting. What you hope for. Hope is a forward motion. It means pressing on into God's promises, so that what you hope for might really come true fully in your now. Now in the Bible, hope is less defined by one's own personal expectation and desire, but it's more shaped by the promises of God and by the personality of a living and a loving God. If he is like that, then I can hope for such and such. And in the early 17th century, Richard Siddis wrote a book on Psalm 42 verse 5, a whole book on one verse, and it was called The Soul's Conflict with Itself. Why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you disquieted within me? Hope in God. So you see, this was his answer to the internal wrangling that goes on all the time inside yourself. He says, why are you disquieted? Hope in God. Move forwards. Move out of where you are into where he is. It's really a matter of looking into God's possibilities and not into one's own inadequacies. And it's not just a personal thing. If I live in hope, then I really live in forgiveness. Do you know what I mean by that? I hope that my relationship between me and that person, which is now fractured, is going to be restored. If I'm living in hope, I'm living in the expectation of forgiveness, that I might forgive and not retaliate, that I might not jump back when somebody gets on my nose with something that requires forgiveness later on. I'm living in hope towards peace. If I receive a setback in my planning, in my career, in my ambitions about something, then I hope that that will be resolved, that I can move forward, I can move out of this slump into something. I want you to show diligence so that what you hope for might be fully realized. And crucially, whenever I face temptation, which, if you're like me, comes on a sort of a 20-minute cycle, when you face temptation, then you hope that the next time you're going to do better. It's not just going to be caught out by the same thing time and time again. That's living forwards, isn't it? That's living in hope. And unless I learn to see the big picture, then I won't really learn to appreciate the day-to-day detail, the nitty-gritty. I will just be swept about like a leaf on the water by all the circumstances that come my way. So to live in hope, to live forwards, is to have a destination, to have a shoreline, and you're navigating the ship towards that point over there. And the writer here is saying, I hope that's realised. But you've got to show diligence, you've got to show resolution, you've got to show that you know where you're going. And of course the verse comes to mind. One of the most powerful verses in the whole of the New Testament, Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. It's moving forward into what God has for me. So I've got to learn to live life forwards. So I have to shift gear. You know, if you're in an automatic car, if you're automatic transmission, you can ram away on the accelerator or press the brake, but nothing will happen. There'll be no movement until the gear is engaged, until you switch to forward. Now we use that word hope in a variety of ways. We hope for something good coming our way. I hope that's going to work out. Or hope might be that good thing in the future that we desire. Or hope might be the reason why our hope might come to pass. We can use it in all kinds of ways. But ultimately, if you're dealing with human beings, it's not much different from saying cross your fingers. It's not much different from saying, oh gosh, I hope so. I hope it'll come right. But when the word says hope in God, it's something qualitatively different. William Carey said, expect great things from God. And really that's what hope is. Hope is the acknowledgement of who God is, the acknowledgement of his love and his life and his purpose, and then moving into that thing. And hope, according to chapter 6 of Hebrews, is really necessary, because otherwise I get caught with a scary cliff edge that he just mentions. He said it's impossible for those who've been enlightened, who've tasted the heavenly gift, who've tasted the goodness of God, the power of the coming age, and have fallen away. It's like he takes us to a cliff edge and he shows us what have you ever done that? Crawled up to the edge of a cliff and peered over right down into potential destruction, and then contemplated being irretrievably lost. And here in Hebrews 6 he says it's possible even for people who've had remarkable religious experiences to lose it and to go beyond the point of no return. But however, as he goes on in verses 9 to 12, he says, you're not like that. You're not like that. You're not teetering on the brink of something. You hope in God. You're looking towards something that you don't yet see. That's the way we live, isn't it, in life? When faith is directed towards the future, we can call that hope. So just flip over into chapter 11 of Hebrews and you get that famous definition of faith. Faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that great? You're looking forward. You're not teetering on the cliff edge, wondering whether you're going to make it or not. Hope thou in God. Look forward. Expect great things from God. I want you to be diligent about this so that what you hope for might be fully realized. Hope is so close to faith. It's like the forward movement of faith. And faith is the conviction of things not seen. Hope is the optimism of faith. It's like a kind of prophetic insight. Remember, Abraham believed, and it says here in Hebrews 11, against hope. Isn't that interesting? He was too old to have a child. His wife was barren. But biblical hope is never based on what is possible with man, but on the expectation of great things from God. We learn to live life forwards when we live in the faith that God has got me in his hand and he won't let go. Amen. God bless you today.